Okay, so you're not going to believe this. However, Doors just released a secret mini update for Black Friday. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cheddar, a bunch of new item skins doesn't warrant its own video. And for that, you'd mostly be correct. I don't really cover just new item skins releasing. However, hidden changes also came in this update, such as a pretty big revamp to Sally, as well as the lobby as a whole. Now, given how this update was released on Black Friday, I am calling it the Black Friday update. So, in today's video, I'm going to be going over all of the new changes added to this update, including new features implemented to existing entities, such as Sally, as well as all the new Black Friday-oriented stuff in the shop. We have got a lot to discuss today, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so probably the most major new additions added to this update focus on Sally. This entity got a complete revamp in this update, as now they have completely overhauled animations, functionalities, and even appearances. Let's just go over all of the new stuff one by one. The biggest change you'll notice with Sally is what happens when she picks up an item. Previously, she would just sit down and spin around whilst holding the item. However, now that has been changed. Instead, she no longer spins, staying relatively still, and if you look closely, you'll notice her eyes become joyful. These joyful eyes for Sally were always in the game files, but they weren't actually ever used in-game. However, now they will appear whenever the entity is playing with a toy. Something also interesting happens a few seconds after Sally plays with an item, and that is how they actually disappear. Additionally, a new sound plays when Sally receives a toy, and now she will laugh with delight. Previously, Sally would actually never unload from the game when given an item. She would just sit there forever. Now, however, she will disappear in a cloud of black smoke alongside a visage of her face a few seconds after being given a toy. This disappearing animation offers no major gameplay change, besides making it a tiny bit harder to crucify the entity, as you are now on a time limit if you plan to crucify her after she has taken an item, which you can actually do if you just click on her whilst holding a crucifix, but it is a nice quality of life feature. Additionally, speaking of this disappearing animation, Sally also received a unique appearing animation, although it is only limited to the admin panel. As you probably know, in a typical game, Sally will appear by smashing through a nearby window, and she used to appear this exact same way when spawned through the admin panel. This made it so she could only ever be spawned in hotel rooms with windows. However, now whenever you spawn Sally with the admin panel, she will appear in a black cloud of smoke, meaning she can appear on any floor when summoned with the admin panel. Moving on, another new change added to Sally is that now she can actually teleport. Previously, Sally would just infinitely chase players until she either 1. Receives an item or 2. Jump scares them. However, now she will actually teleport to a player if they stray too far away from her. This is quite difficult to capture footage of, as the player's base speed is way too slow to ever warrant a teleportation from Sally. However, we can actually see this in action with the admin panel and just flying around incredibly quickly. As you can hopefully make out, Sally disappears in a cloud of black smoke and reappears on top of the player in another cloud of black smoke whenever she teleports. This really just serves to make the entity harder to avoid, and although that does seem pretty bad at first, she was actually nerfed in this update to hopefully become more fair to deal with for all types of players. You see, Sally was always originally intended to only spawn when the player actually had an item in their inventory which they could give her. Since the entity's release nearly a year ago though, this feature was completely bugged, meaning Sally would just spawn whenever, resulting in players without items having absolutely no way to avoid being attacked by her. Now, although it wasn't completely confirmed that this issue was resolved in this update, through some very bare-bones testing I did as well as others did, I think it was. Additionally, the developers are aware of this bug. We actually talked about it a couple days ago, and given how the entire update was mostly aimed at revamping Sally, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to assume this functionality change was implemented. Still, this was something I'd always wished Sally had, as before she was very unfair to new players, as they didn't always have items to give her, meaning they would just attack relentlessly without any way to avoid her. However, now she seems to work perfectly as intended. Okay, so that was pretty much all of the Sally changes added in this update. Now, I think it's time to focus our attention on the changes added to the shop. After all, this is the Black Friday update, so obviously the shop is going to get some new features. For one, almost all the shop items, including Robux stuff such as the admin panel, have received discounted prices. According to the patch notes, all knob items have discounted 50%, and the admin panel only costs 66% of what it originally was. Additionally, a new Seek-themed bundle has been added to the store, featuring a bunch of Seek slime-covered items, which is pretty cool. And some other miscellaneous item skins were also added, such as a skeleton key themed around the death skull you witness every time you die, and a fish stick-themed glow-stick item skin, which is pretty cool. Additionally, the daily deal section of the shop was expanded, only for this Black Friday weekend, so now more item skins can be purchased each day than what was previously available. As of recording this video, another new item skin was also added in the update, which can be purchased in the shop, and that is a fairy-themed crucifix skin with custom animations, which is pretty cool. Furthermore, for only the duration of this Black Friday weekend, all subfloors cost no Stardust to enter from the lobby, meaning now is a better time than literally ever to get any badge associated with subfloors. Lastly, the final addition in this update are all the new signs added to the lobby, which advertise the new deals and content in the shop. This one is pretty minor, but I thought I could mention it here as it is kinda cool. So, to summarize the entire Black Friday update, Sally received a bunch of overhauls, including new animations, mechanics, and an overall more balanced functionality, so hopefully she isn't as much of a burden to players who don't have items. The shop was also expanded, new item skins were added, and a bunch of previously costly purchases are now available at a discount, such as completely free entries to subfloors from the lobby, which is definitely beneficial for badge hunters. Lastly, signs were implemented all over the lobby to advertise the new deals in the shop. They're even styled just like the signs you can see in Jeff's shop, what I think is a neat detail. Overall, I'd say this was a pretty cool mini update, and I can't wait to see what else the game has in store. So, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of all this, as well as if you like all the Sally changes. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.